Good morning. Today we'll discuss about methods of economics, inductive versus deductive methods. So methods, the usual methods of scientific studies, deduction and induction are available to the economists. Both the methods come from science, meaning logic. The deductive method involves reasoning from a few fundamental propositions, the truth of which is assumed, and the inductive method involves collection of facts, drawing conclusion from them and testing the conclusion by other facts. Now, the when we talk about economics, both the methods are used in economics. Deductive approach is also used and inductive approach is also used. Now let us understand clearly the meaning of these two approaches and how to go about it. So when we talk about induction or inductive approach, it starts from particular and moves to the general, begins with particular observation and moves to general explanation, collects observation, then develops a theory to fit the facts. Now, what does this mean? That here we start with a particular, we can say we gather data about anything, we propose something first, right? Like for example, there you are given with a basket of mangoes, for example, okay, and you are told to look in the basket and tell everybody that whether all the mangoes in the basket are raw or ripe. All right, so you start with picking one mango. The first one was raw. Then you picked second mango. The second one also was raw. Then you picked the third mango, that was also raw. So with this particular data and this particular information that you observation, we can say, we one can assume that all the mangoes in the basket are raw. All right, you did not look at all the mangoes. Looking at three mangoes which came out to be raw, you concluded that all the mangoes in the basket are raw. So this is how um, the approach is in case of inductive research. You first gather data about it, then you look for patterns, and then you develop a theory, a general proposition you give, a general theory is given. Now let us look at one example again. So that's an example. So there is an apple that falls to the ground. So this is a particular observation. All apples are falling to the ground. That then you uh, gathered more data. You observed more about the apples. And then a general explanation to this is that all objects attract each other. It is because of the gravity that is happening, right? So that is a general explanation. So this is how we go about in case of inductive research or induction. Now let us discuss about deduction. So it starts from general and moves to particular. So here the theory is given first, okay, and then we move to particular. So begins with general assumptions and move to particular conclusion, develops a theory and then examines the fact to see if they follow the theory. Okay, so starting with the first thing, here we first hypothesize. So there is a general theory about anything, then we analyze the data whether the theory is being proven correct or not. With the data, is the data supporting the theory? And then we say whether the hypothesis is correct or not, whether it is being supported by the data or not. This is what we do in case of deductive research. Now let us look at one example. So as we all know that there is 360 degrees in a circle. Okay, so this is a theory, a general assumption that all the circles that we speak about, it has 360 degrees, right? Now there are four right angles in the circle, right? So it is a logical argument, and then therefore this right angle has 90 degrees, right? So it's a particular conclusion. So when you divide 360 by 4, you will get 90 degrees, right? So this is a particular conclusion. Now let us look at one let us look at the this particular thing, which is deductive and inductive approaches to the same issue. Let us understand this deductive and inductive approach with one example. So deductive approach, the observation, we start with the same thing, which is observation. So in deductive approach, the observation is violence increases in the summer. In inductive also, you start with one proposition, which is violence increases in the summer. Now the theory which deductive, because deductive approach starts with a theory, so the theory says that heat increases aggression. Now in inductive approach you cannot go to the theory directly, you have to first observe the data, like observe this particular statement which says violence increases in the summer. So people asked about why they think violence increases in the summer. Okay, and then data mostly will say that people say that heat makes them more aggressive, and then we come to a general conclusion, general assumption, that heat increases aggression. Next is in case of deductive approach, heat increases aggression, and then example of study, participants in the warm or hot room play game where they can award or punish fellow players. If those in hot room give more punishment, this supports the theory. Okay, so this particular, we are going from a general theory to a particular example in case of deductive, and in case of inductive we are actually observing whether it is happening or not, and then we are coming to a conclusion. Okay, now how do this particular thing is used in case of economics? Let us see that. So we can say that economics can be a very deductive subject, and economists are used to constructing complicated models of human behavior which begin with a number of assumptions. However, economics is also an empirical subject using inductive methods to explain the observed fact. So in economics we do not stick to one type of approach, we are using both the types of approaches depending upon the problem in hand. If there is something which has never been observed, or it is something new, then we use inductive approach, wherein we collect data, we observe, and then we give a general theory about it. If something is not new, there is already a theory behind it, there is already a general theory behind any observation, then we take that theory and then we collect data, and then we prove whether that theory is correct or incorrect. Now, thus, downward sloping demand curve, for example, can be deducted from general assumption about how people try to maximize their satisfaction from the purchase of goods and services. So here, the what is the theory? That a demand curve is downward sloping. And how can you prove that? When you talk to people and when they say that yes, when the price of a product is increasing, then they purchase less, and people try to maximize their satisfaction from purchase of goods and services. On the other hand, demand curve can be built up empirically also. How? When we go to actual customers and ask them, when if the price is this, how much are you going to buy? If the price changes, how much are you going to buy? And now you take opinions, you collect information, and then you actually talk about the theory of demand. Right, first you collect data about it, and then you look at the pattern that yes, most of the cases when the price is increasing, quantity demanded is falling down. So that is why the demand curve is a downward sloping demand curve, that is, there is a negative relationship between price and quantity demanded. Okay, so that is how we go about inductive approach and deductive approach. Right, that is all for today. Thank you.